Hello and welcome to Coding with Day. This is the second episode of Todo app. So let's get started. First, we'll get Firebase initialized. Since we are using a wait keyword, we have to make the method async. Now that we have initialized the Firebase app, let's remove this home page and we're going to create our own. So in our app, we're going to have an introduction page. So therefore, we'll create a page called intro. And remove this. So let's make our first screen inside the library screen folder. Let's name that intro.dart. Inside that, we'll create a stateless widget called intro and import material.dart. First, we'll run and see if the app is working. Therefore, we'll need to create a scaffold. Inside that body, we'll be creating a center. Inside that, we'll be creating a child called text. Inside the text widget, I'm going to type in a placeholder text called intro. And don't worry about all these const issues. Then we are going to import the intro page into the main and run the app. It's all running fine. And now let's go and download all the pictures that we need for our introduction screens. FreePic is a website that provides you with free images, pictures. So we're going to use these two images by Vector Juice. And we click on download. And then we'll be selecting this image again by Vector Juice. We're going to download. These images are downloaded as EPS or JPG. So we're going to convert EPS into SVG. So I just did a Google search. And select the files that you needed to be converted. After that, you tap on convert. After downloading the images, we're going to put them in the assets folder. Then we are going to rename the images for easiness. So I'm going to rename the very first one as intro 1 and intro 2. Then let's close all these things off. Next, we'll create our controller, which is todo controller dot. Inside this, we are typing class todo controller extends GetX controller. This holds all our variables and preserve its state. Now we have to bind it with our main. So to do that, we need to create another file called controller bindings. This can be any name, but I choose to use controller underscore binding. Inside this, we'll be creating another class called controller bindings, and it'll be extending to bindings. After that, we are implementing the missing override. And in this void dependencies, we have to add our get controller. In here, we have to add our todo controller. So what we are doing right now is creating a global file for all the controllers. So if you make another controller, you can put it here and you don't have to define it anywhere else or bind it again and again. Perfect. Everything's working fine. So we are going to head back to the main file and bind our controllers. To do that, we have to type in initial bindings inside the get material app and type in controller bindings. Next, we'll start on our introduction screen. So first, we have to remove all this code right here. Then call in our introduction screen package. Now that we have defined the interaction screen package, we are gonna define the buttons that's gonna be shown in the screen. So we're gonna show next button and done button, but we are not gonna show the skip button. What skip button does is it just skips the entire interaction screen process to whatever the place that we direct it to. I'm going to have two pages inside this interaction screen. So we'll be having an image, title, a body. You can use this title widget or body widget to have your own customized widget. Else, you can have just the title, which does its default style guide. Inside the body tag, I'm going to have some placeholder text from Lorem Ipsum. Now that's done, let's do a hot reload. Okay, we encountered some error. Let's see what's going on. So we have asked it to show done and next buttons. Okay, we have enabled done and next buttons. So therefore, we need to call in on done function and tell what need to be done and define both next and done tags. I'm going to use text for done button, and for next button, I'm going to use forward arrow icon. Now we'll save that and do a hot reload. Okay, our interaction screen seems to work fine. As you can see, there's a bit of a difference between the SVG and the background. So I'm going to make the background color as white. So you can use the tag called global background color and colors.white. And there you go. It looks perfect. And now I'm going to replicate the same page and make it 2 pages just for this tutorial. And there you go, you can see the difference. And when you come here, it says done and not the forward arrow. So this is what we were working on before on done and next. As you can see, the image is almost touching the top notch. So let's add some padding. To do that, we need to add that decoration tag inside the page on weave. And let's provide an image padding of 50 to the top of the image. And now we will copy the same thing to the second page view model. Then hot reload it. Now that we have completed the interaction screen, let's write the done function directing it to our home page. We'll be using route function in get to navigate to our next page, which is home. So let's create our home screen. This, we are going to make a stateless widget called home, and then I'm going to import material dot. Let's return a scaffold. We are returning a text inside the scaffold body, but later on we're going to change this. So our text widget is working, and now we're going to head back to the intro page and import home screen, then do a hot reload. Our text is not in the middle, so I'm going to wrap a center widget around our text widget. First, we'll focus on adding a task. To do that, I'm going to use floating action button and calling in our to-do controller. This will allow me to check if the bind that we did earlier works fine. First, I'll be creating an instance from our to-do controller. Create a to-do function inside the to-do controller and go back to home screen and call it from there. Let's display a plus icon on the floating action button. To do that, I'm going to call in the child tag and add an icon widget. Also, let's add a print value inside the add to do function. Now let's see if that one is working. Before that, we'll address this error. Just have a const there. And let's go back to debug console. When you tap on it, you just scroll down and you'll see, yeah, it works. Now let's write our first Firebase query to add the task. Just focus on what I'm doing here. I'm actually writing this in a way that I can use it to create an update task. A Firebase query returns a future. Therefore, await keyword should be used. Since we are using await, we'll need to make the function future async. Then I'm saving all my tasks in a collection called to-dos. Inside this collection, I have two fields called task and isDone. Task is to hold the task name, which is a string value, and isDone is a boolean value which we are using to check if the task is completed or not. This value will be updated by the user. We'll be getting these values when the user adds a task. Therefore, I'm going to add it to the parameters inside the add to function. We are setting the set option merge function to true so we can save and update data using the same Firebase query. Let's create the add screen. To do this, I'm going to use another tool in GetX called default dialog. This will give me a pop-up dialog that will enable us to create the interface. Let's create our global key for form state. First, I'm going to add the title, add to do, and then I'm going to run it, and you can see it's there. Now, let's make the body of the dialog. First, I'm going to add the column and wrap it around form widget. Then assign form key as the key of the form widget. Next, inside the column, I'm going to add two widgets, text form field and elevator button. Inside the text form field, we need to have a controller. So to create the controller, we need to convert this stateless widget into a stateful widget. Why? Because every time the screen rebuilds, we will lose values stored inside the text controller. We can avoid this by making it a stateful widget and creating an instant above the context like this. Now we'll assign task controller to the text form field. and also create a validator function. What this validator function does is that it checks if the variable value is empty. If it is, it will return the error string, else null will be returned. Next, let's create an elevated button. Inside the onPress, we'll be having an async function calling addToDo function. Task controller text value and false will be sent as the parameter. Here we'll be adding a text widget called save. This will be our button text. Now let's try adding a new task. We forgot to write the code to dispose the dialog after we click on save. For now, we'll add get.back after the Firebase query is executed, like this. Now we have done that. Let's add new to-do task. Let's head to our Firebase and see if the values are saved. As you can see, saving to the database is successful. On the next episode, I will teach how to display data without using Stream Builder and update the data. Till then, stay safe.